Chapter 3.
Seb paced up and down the kitchen floor, carving a path through the smashed glass and food tins with his trainers. He was holding the remaining of Grandma Sylvie's old telephone. The receiver was broken and the cord had been ripped out of the base. Ivy steadied herself against the back of a chair. Her skin was prickled with shock. "You saw it flying too, right? What was it?" "I don't know." Seb's face was stony. He rubbed his hands down the back of his jeans. Ivy could see sweat forming on his brow. "What does 'we can see you now' even mean?" He gestured around the room. And the breaking in. "Doesn't make any sense. I've checked the other rooms downstairs, but it doesn't look like anything's been stolen. Whoever was here, they've just trashed the place." Ivy scanned the room again, picking out what remained of her grandma's antique furniture, old books and favourite photos. Her throat swelled. Most of what Grandma Sylvie had collected over the years was irreplaceable. Ivy couldn't understand what someone would gain from destroying it. It just didn't make any sense. As Seb put the phone down on the kitchen table, she studied the animal tracks again. She splayed out her fingers. The prints were at least 4 times the size of her hand. What animal could have been here? It was much bigger than a domestic pet. "There's no way to call the police from here now," Seb said. "We'll have to cycle towards Bletchley Scrub until we get a mobile signal, and then try Mum and Dad." Ivy nodded in agreement as the wall behind her crackled. She rotated slowly until she was facing it again. "Are you seeing that?" she asked. Seb swallowed. The "we can see you now" was disappearing shred by shred, as if wallpaper was repairing itself like living skin. Seb dragged his hands down his face, pulling his cheeks as if trying to wake himself up. Why is this getting worse? Ivy clenched her fists. The only way to stop herself from freaking out was to try and understand what was going on. There must be some logic to it. She reran the last 10 minutes from the beginning. Grandma Sylvie's front door, the scratching, the fridge, the animal tracks, the feather, the coin. The coin! Ivy searched the kitchen tiles and spotted it in a puddle of tomato soup. "Careful," Seb warned as she bent down to retrieve it. Ivy's fingers floated above the coin for a moment before she picked it up and wiped it off. It was about the size of a 1-piece pence. 1 pence piece. Except silver and bent slightly in the middle so that it hugged the curve of her hand. After a split second, she discovered something else. The coin was warm, like it had been left out in the sun. "Anything?" Seb asked, stepping closer. Ivy tossed the coin into her opposite hand to discover that the temperature wasn't the only odd thing about it. It was as if the coin was tickling her, leaving behind a strange but not unpleasant tingle on her skin. Squinting, she held it up to the light. The metal was worn in places, but she could still make out the words written on the outside. It says, "Black Claw, Ragwort, Wolfsbane and Dirge." She looked up. "What do you think they mean?" Seb jerked his head back. "How do I know? Maybe it's one of Grandma's old antiques. She sold coins in her own old shop, didn't she?" Ivy thought back to the little leaded windows of Grandma Sylvie's antique shop at Bletchley Scrub. She'd run it with Grandpa Ernest right up until his death. "Yeah," she agreed. "But they weren't like this." Seb's shoulders stiffened. "What do you mean?" The coin was still warm, which was weird enough. But now Ivy felt another sensation, something she couldn't quite identify. It was like the difference between holding a stuffed toy cat and a real cat. It was the feeling of holding life. I mean, something brushed at the edge of her hearing. A voice. She hesitated. No, she must be imagining it. What I mean, she said again, is that Grandma's coins didn't exactly appear out of thin air, and this one did. Just then, a clatter sounded from somewhere at the front of the house. Seb's head shot round. What was that? Before Ivy could answer, the noise came again, followed by a rumble of voices. They were not alone. Chapter 3. I'll see you next time for Chapter 4. Bye-bye.